and welcome to Youth Assembly this 15th day of March 2021. It's already halfway through the month of March, and I hope you've achieved a lot. And well, if you haven't, what the set goal you've set for yourself for the month of March, well, it's a good time for you to begin because it's a new week, and new week brings new fortunes, I guess. My name is Sylvia Ishebe, and today I am not alone on Youth Assembly. I'm with a doctor, a young doctor doing great things in his field, Dr. Sanusi Ohere, who is the Executive Director, Rural Electrification Fund, REA. Welcome, Doctor.
Thank you very much, Sylvia. It's a pleasure to be here.
All right, so young people doing amazingly well in the field. I tell you, you're going to tell us your story here, right here on Youth Assembly. I hope you're ready for us.
Yes, I am.
All right. So today we are looking at youth engagement in Nigerian policy making and development. It is high time we did this, and yes, we have brought it to the fore for you to contribute and tell us how youths can get engaged actively in policy making and development in Nigeria. We would love to take your comments and questions if you have any over the course of this show, and hopefully Doctor will answer all the questions. All right, so you agree with me that youths are one of the greatest assets that any nation can have, and it will be concrete and bold, and a bold step to put the development and participation of youth in policy making at the center of national development. Now, how can the government become ready or take in youths into consideration as they develop policies? That is one question we intend to ask. And also, how ready are the Nigerian youths in getting involved in policy making and development? Okay, so Doctor, in Nigeria, young people are getting appointed into public offices, and we've seen that some people are also complaining, youths complaining that, well, young people are not getting enough visibility in terms of appointments and policy making. So how did you get into your field? You are the executive director of the Rural Electrification Fund under the Rural Electrification Agency in 2017 at the age of 32. You tell us your story. How did you get there?
Well, thank you very much, Sylvia. For me, my case was, it started out as just like every other Nigerian, getting interested in what's going on within the society. And, for me, my field is the electrification space, rural electrification. The interest came a long time ago, growing up and not just having stable electricity. I always asked the question why we weren't having electricity and why it was difficult, to solve the electricity challenge. And this is a question that continued to prop up until even when I got to the university. I had to start taking courses, related to this field. And then I decided I was going to do a master's along the line. I did that in energy finance. And then went ahead to do my PhD in rural energy development, all in the bid to, look for solutions. After asking yourself, why do we have this, challenge? Why is it so difficult to, solve it? How can I be part of the solution? So I guess, that's my story. Went to the university, did all of this research, as it relates to Nigeria, to see how we can solve these problems. Came up with some recommendations, and in my own specific case, I was lucky because, after I left, when I finished my PhD, I came back, and then there were this group of, international development agency funded by the EU and Nigerian government, and German government, rather, in partnership with Nigeria, called the Nigerian Energy Support Program. So they were looking at solving the same problem from the policy side and regulatory side, fund it on behalf of the government. And then, they asked me to join them. And while we were there, I was able to, help them fill some policy gaps in terms of rural electrification and renewable energy. We developed various policy documents and plans, did a lot of studies, surveys, gathered data. And then we passed some regulation, very important regulation called the mini-grid regulation, which we drafted and, for the Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission, which has helped to open up the mini-grid and renewable energy space at the rural community. So while we're just rounding that up, I also got, fortunate to be appointed here at the Rural Electrification Agency as the executive director in charge of the Rural Education Fund, to support private investments into the space, into the rural education space. So for me, my story has been, that of, doing research and then helping to fill the policy and data and regulatory gap, and then now here to implement all of those new policies. So I think I've just been, fortunate. Although it's important for everybody, young people, to be ready, it doesn't have to be government. It could be business. It could be NGO. You need to hone
Exactly.
your skills.
I was going to
Yeah,
ask you that. You're more like a
exactly.
researcher. You're more like
Yeah,
a researcher, and you've gone to all the highest level of education, a PhD,
yeah,
at that
yeah,
young age, still in your 30s, and you did all of those achievements.
yeah.
But for people who are in other fields, like you're saying, how can they get involved in policy making? I know you might have faced a lot of challenges getting to where you are today, and getting appointed as the executive director of the commission. How can young people who aren't so educated like you are or exposed to research also contribute in policymaking in the field that they have found themselves? Can you hear me, Doctor?
Yeah. Yes, I can hear you now. I'm back. I can hear you now. So
Okay.
I got your question. So
Mm-hmm.
let me use my sector as an example. Like I said, I didn't start off as working for government. I started from research. So while I was there, I was looking at real life problems, trying to solve real life problems, to research on real life problems that affect all of us. And then, having succeeded in doing that, I worked for an international development agency, to help them, develop policies for government, to help the country move forward in renewable energy and rural electrification, targets. So, having done all this before coming into government, while we were developing those policies and regulations and gathering the data, of course, we were interacting with ordinary Nigerians, various stakeholders. So, for instance, businessmen, businesses, we needed to understand from their point of view why, how not having electricity in rural communities, affect them, and what do we need to do to encourage them from the international development space, from the government side, and all of that to help. And we got very, very good feedback from practitioners, so businesses, entrepreneurs, the rural people, all the stakeholders, state government, and all of that, to develop this policy. So there's always a role for people to play in every sector. So in the case of my sector, we have young people that are now driving from the business side as well,
Mm-hmm.
entrepreneurship,
True.
to partner with government to achieve, government policies and targets. So it's always a handshake. You always have people working from different sides to achieve a certain goal. So from government side, and even in government, yeah, we have various layers. The state, the federal, the local, the community. That's ordinary rural Nigerians. Of course, I'm also stakeholders. Then the businesses that we are now partnering with to go to those rural places are also stakeholders. And like I said, from the research and the policy and all of that, angle, you also have stakeholders, from there. So it doesn't necessarily have to be government. All of these people are operating from different angles, but to solve one problem. So
Mm-hmm.
it's not only government that solves problems. So if you are passionate about a certain part or aspect of our lives as Nigerians that you are not happy about, and you think you have something to offer, there's always a room for you, be it from the private individual citizen side, or the business entrepreneurship side, or the international development or NGO side, or or the civil organization side, or government. There's always a role for everybody, to contribute.
Ah, fair enough. Well, like you said, it's not just the government doing all of it. Youths have a huge role to play in policy making and making it grow, or making it in the area that they have chosen to work. Yes, last week we saw where Flutterwave, a fintech company, achieving great feat by drawing a huge amount of investment into the country and government keying into that investment. But how can young people, with all of the challenges they're facing in doing business in Nigeria, with the business environment of Nigeria, how can they overcome it and see hope and future in what they have chosen to do and hopefully get government to key in? I mean, in your own field, I know you must have faced some challenges. Now, you tell us how you were able to overcome that and by government.
To be honest, what I've realized in my own little experience is that if you have something to offer and you have the will and you're determined, there's always a way and there's always room for you in this country. You know what we call the American dream and all of that. We also have it in Nigeria, whereby just by having, the innovation, the creativity, you have something to offer. You don't need to really know anybody in other parts of the country. If your interests align in terms of what your objectives are and what you want to achieve, there's always a room for you. So let me give you an instance. For young private businesses, right now in my space, in the rural electrification space, renewable energy space, majority of the companies are owned by young people. And that's because the renewable energy space is a new field I think only picked up in Nigeria, like on a large scale, say 7 years ago. And the first movers were young university graduates that maybe studied something along this line or have interest or just went for a training or a course in solar engineering or installation and all of that. Gradually, starting opening up companies and then seeing how they can take advantage. So by default, majority of the players within this renewable energy space in Nigeria right now are young people. And then having us too as young people within government from this side, working on the same objective with those private guys, it was easy to bring them in and see how we could, work together to move the sector forward. And because it's also a new field, a lot of support, has come from government at the highest level to encourage the space, because you needed a lot of incentivization to bring, these players, on board. So, for instance, for my fund, it is meant to provide some sort of capital grants to players that want to go into rural communities. Because if you want to rely on conventional, commercial rates, of borrowing, then it's difficult, for private investors to go in. But if you bring in capital grants, it reduces all of the barriers, financial barriers, and challenges. Because when they also bring in their equity, it blends the fund, and then it makes it easy for them to invest and recoup their money over a longer period of time. So young private companies have been in this space. We have various programs to encourage them. We have the one on education, energizing education, which largely targets universities and young people, students. And we have the one on even innovation, which we are launching very soon. Startups, a program on startups and innovation, which we target young, emerging companies as well. We already have the one on economies, which is running, energizing economies for large markets and economic clusters, which, of course, we've done a bit of projects under that one. And then we have a new one that the CBN approved under the Vice President's leadership, called the Economic Sustainability Plan, which is a concessional loan, I think at 5%, targeting companies, local companies this time, that are willing to go into renewable energy deployment to various households and communities. And all of these, from government side, are being put on the table to encourage companies, local companies, young people, to come in to the foray. And then we are trying to be flexible and not too rigid with some of the criteria as well, so that it can, because we know we need to grow this company, this industry, and these companies, we need to give them room to thrive. So we understand that, and then from our side, we're doing all that we can, to encourage them to come in.
All right, it's Youth Assembly, and yes, we see you. We thank you for all your shares and comments so far. We have the comments already, and keep the comments coming. If you have questions to ask Dr. Sanusi, he's right here to answer on policy making and development in Nigeria. How can youths get involved actively in this field? Okay, so as I await your comments, let me take this one. We have a comment already from Chimezie Anene. It's a wonderful analysis by Dr. Sanusi. Well done, Dr. Sanusi, I must say.
Thank you.
All
Thank
right,
you,
so
Chima.
okay, so you've mentioned some of the things you're doing already to get youths to participate in the Rural Electrification Fund Agency. Yes. Okay. So, what are the criteria really? What do the youths have to do in order to be able to benefit from this?
Okay, so there are what we call statutory requirements for any company in Nigeria to be able to participate in government, programs or projects. So, for instance, we would expect that you are registered with the Corporate Affairs, Commission. You are paying your taxes. You have audited accounts. You're paying all of the relevant taxes, ITF, NSITF, all of those, documents. And mind you, recently, I think there was a window for registering of companies, which the government brought, I think, for about 5 or 6 weeks. They really reduced at a discounted rate. All of this is to encourage people that want to register companies to go ahead and register. Once you have all of your necessary documents, and then at least you should demonstrate that you have experience and capacity to carry out these projects, you can come and bid for any of the projects, and upon evaluation you are taken. But sometimes what's difficult for new companies is the length of years in terms of experience that we usually put out. Sometimes we say we need 3 years experience and all. People have complained about this. But the reason why we put that there is because we want very serious and senior companies that have, demonstrated capacity and have done well and have track record to be part of our program, so that we don't have failed programs. But also taking note of the fact that it's not fair on the people, the new companies that have innovation and are creative. So we also have different programs to encourage startups. So for that case, for instance, we do not need the 3 years experience. So, for instance, if you have between 6 months to 1 year experience, you can participate in those sort of startup, programs, which we are developing side by side with the other ones that require more experience. And the government of President Buhari has also come up with a lot of funds to encourage. I think there's the youth fund, there is the COVID funds. There are just several funds going on right now. And what I realized that a lot of people are not taking advantage of this, maybe because they are not aware. But I would encourage them to take a look at some of these funds. If they get, if they're able to, apply and they succeed, of course, they can register. It can go into helping to build their businesses. So in the renewable energy space, we also have various trainings from us, REA, with partnership with NAPTIN and GIZ, and a couple of other training companies to train young people in this field, so that they build that capacity and then they can step into the market. So if you can just train somebody on how to simply operate and maintain and fix small problems with solar installations, that can, and then maybe empower them with tools, that can be a start, for, of a livelihood for them. So all of this, we partner with various stakeholders to do. And in all of the universities, we have solar power plants and gas power plants in. We're also building training centers. And we started off by training 20 female engineers in all of these universities that we are participating in, about 37 of them, and 7 teaching hospitals. And that's like the pilots. So at the end of the day, we're going to have, a lot of, female engineers and installers as well, that have been trained by us. But that's not to say it's only going to be female students that we're training. That was just for the pilot. We trained 20 in each of these universities. But going forward, the training facilities there will be available for everybody, all the students, male, female, for them to be able to get additional training in this specific field. So
All
these are
right.
some of the things that we've been doing. Yeah.
Oh, well done. Okay, so youths, they don't basically have to become researchers before they can get involved actively in policy making. Is
No,
that what
no,
you're
no,
saying?
no, 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 no. They don't. They don't. We all have our own roots and trajectories. For me, I had to do the research because I was really interested in the policies and the regulations, and it was something. It's not everybody that can go through all that. But we
Do
have
research.
we have installers, we have company owners, and these company owners, they employ engineers, they employ even secondary school graduates, just train them on how to to understand a renewable energy system, a solar system, or hydro, or whatever, in a specific aspect. So to install, for instance, it's not a very difficult thing. If you do a 1, 2, 3 months training, you become very, very good at doing that. So we have a separate institution in charge of that under government, but we partner with them. They are called the Nigerian Power Training Institute of Nigeria, the National Power Training Institute of Nigeria, and we partner with them. We also have the Nigerian Energy Support Program, which is funded by GIZ, the German International Cooperation Agency, and the German what's it called, the European Union. So they also are in charge of training. Then we have some companies, I think like Blue Camel, Ace TV, and a couple of other Nigerian companies that are also into training. So we partner with all of these people to train people at different levels. There are those that are just they are highly skilled, so you give them a separate type of training. They are semi-skilled, and then they are not unskilled. So you give them various types of trainings depending on their level of skill.
Well, it looks like every youth have something to gain out of this. Okay.
Exactly.
So we have another question. Abdul Lahi says a lot of Nigerians want to leave Nigeria for Canada, UK, and America. Do you think government is doing enough in carrying the young people along in policymaking in Nigeria, and what should be done to engage the youth actively?
Okay, so, well, I don't know if I'm qualified to talk about migration or immigration issues because I don't work for foreign affairs, but what I know is it's vice versa. People are moving out of Nigeria, people are moving into Nigeria, especially in my field. Because of the policies and the work that we've put in renewable, you see a lot of international companies coming into Nigeria to set up businesses because they want to participate in the country. In the space because of the opportunities that are there. So it's not everybody, unfortunately, that is blessed to see where there are opportunities, but so that they can work towards these opportunities and harness it and then, make something out of it. Unfortunately, most people, and this is not just peculiar to Nigerian youths, most people all over the world, they like what we call in Nigerian parlance already made. They want to go to countries where the people have already toiled and suffered, to build over years and, centuries, and they just want to be there and enjoy the fruits. But they forget that the people that built those countries were citizens of those countries. So for me, my own attitude is to come to my country. I see all of these challenges that we have as opportunities to make your own impact. Just like I've seen the challenge that people have been running away from in Nigeria, especially the power sector, rural electrification. I've seen it as an opportunity to make an impact, and I'm here doing my bit. I would encourage other people to desist from just criticizing what is not working, or and focus on what they can do to make it better. And just think, you can't solve all the problems of Nigeria as an individual. But whichever one you feel you have the capacity to contribute and solve, there'll be an opportunity for you to make a living out of it. So people that are leaving Nigeria and going to Canada, UK, it's a free world. I mean, they're allowed to. But people that also want to stay, and those that are also coming in, there's also so many opportunities in Nigeria. And I think the government, cannot do everything. They can only do their bit. In my own space, I can talk about all the efforts that government have put in place to ensure that we succeed and then we deliver our mandate.
Speaking about efforts of government, what can they do to encourage youths to actively participate in what we're discussing today, policy making and development? I mean, some youths have complained that the older generation of people in power are shutting them out of the system, and so how will they contribute? So what do you think about this, and what can the government do to encourage youths to get active?
Well, young people need to be deliberate about their plans and their action. What I realize is that I think there's a misconception. The orientation is of most people now is they want to make, they want, of course, everybody wants to make money. But as young people, we should not start off just thinking you want to make money. For instance, I use myself as an example. When I went to study my, when I was doing my master's and PhD, I went to an oil and gas school in Scotland. And that's where people from all over Africa and the world, oil-rich countries, they come and they study masters in oil and gas, all of those things. It's an energy school. But I was the only one doing rural electrification. So I remember then everybody used to laugh at me and say, "You are in an oil and gas school. Instead of you to study all of these courses so that you can go and do work with NNPC, make money and all of that, or share, you are studying rural electrification. Who is going to employ you with rural electrification?" But I was looking at it from the point of view of I wanted to make an impact. There was a challenge. I was not thinking about money. It was more about passion and the drive to make an impact for me. Unfortunately, most young people these days don't take that as their first consideration, and which is fair enough, because you don't want to spend all of that money, acquiring an education, and then you come back and you don't have work. But I took that risk, right? Because I believe in the country and I believe that I could make that impact. And somehow, and when I was doing that, I didn't know there was an REA I was come and become an executive director. So when I came back, I first worked with some other, company, international development agency before I came here. So it is important to have that long-term view and also build yourself in terms of capacity. There's nobody that sees quality and capacity. They will not. You can't be ignored, and that's the truth. And you also need to put yourself out there. Let people know that you have this capacity and this talent, and you are this innovative. You'll not sit down and say, "Oh, I have PhD. Nobody's giving me a job." No, go for workshops, go do presentations, go and sell yourself, do elevator pitches. If you see people that you can sell your services to, talk to them. In my own case, I didn't sit down and say because I have PhD, they should come and give me. Government is not appointing me. I had to introduce myself to government that hey, I'm here. I wrote a letter, for instance. I wrote letters to different stakeholders. I didn't need to know anybody there.
Okay.
So I wrote and I posted these letters, and I got acknowledgement copies of these letters. And then I was waiting. Somehow I got invited, and then the discussions picked up. So there are different ways. It might not be just government. It might be you have a business proposal, you want to, just share far and wide. You don't know who is going to pick interest. It might be you have a specific service that you feel you can render. Just go ahead. Especially now in the era of social media, it is easy to reach out, to all of these people, and then also send in hard copies. So government on its own, they want to support young people. We need to help them to understand where we can contribute. And there's nothing wrong. For instance, people are running away from parties, politics. Join political parties, any one of your choice. There are so many. Because if you are not part of the political process, it is the political process that now leads to you imagine if your party wins. And then if you don't work for at least from the grassroots level, to say this party is the one that we want because we believe in this and this, or these people that are running it. If they eventually win, it's the people that were there with them that they will first, look at, in terms of, giving opportunities. So we're all Nigerians. The space is wide. A lot of people have become something of their lives from nothing. So the examples are everywhere. It's just for us to believe in this country and be deliberate about what we do. Yeah.
So some youths will argue, well, maybe you had a godfather somewhere who was ready to put you up there in where you are right now. But for somebody who doesn't have a godfather, and in terms of politics, even appointments and all, just doing it on their own and waiting for that. Mr. Salisi, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now. I think I lost you there for a bit.
Yeah, sorry about that break. Okay, but what I was saying is for somebody who is complaining, oh, I need to have a godfather to get up there or to get that appointment or get recognized in what I do. What would you say to them, whether in politics, in any field at all that they find themselves, appointments or education, whatever field? What would you say to that young person right now who wants to
Let's
make it?
even say, let's take it from this angle, Sylvia. So, for instance, even if it's your father that is the godfather,
Uh-huh.
if he's not proud of what you have or the services you can render or the capacity you've built, he will not introduce you to anybody because he's not proud of you. It is normal, right? Then what I've realized is that some of these big men are being criticized that, oh, they do not like helping people or young people. But the truth is, what if they do not know that we have somebody with this kind of capacity out there for the role that they are looking for?
So how
So
did they
that's why I
become
told you.
how did they
So
become
that's what I'm
visible?
saying. You
Yeah.
become visible by putting yourself out there. I mentioned to you before, I said, if you
Mhm.
have to, you have to sell yourself. In my own case, I was attending a lot of workshops, making presentations, making policy recommendations based on my own experience and research and capacity and knowledge in that field. So it was difficult for anybody to ignore, right? Now, I didn't know Fashola was the minister then, to be honest. I didn't know Fashola then. What did I do? I wrote a letter to him. I went to his office. I dropped with his secretary. I said, please, let it get. I got an amendment copy. I came back. I didn't know Buhari. Yes, maybe we campaigned for Buhari in 2015, but I've never met him. I only met Buhari for the first time 1 year after he appointed me when they invited young people to the villa for dinner. I didn't know him. He didn't need to know me. So my CV in that case spoke for me, right? I know it cannot be the same for everybody, but I'm just telling you this is my own experience. Yes, maybe I'm from a political family, my dad and all of that, but my dad doesn't know anything in rural electrification. My path and what I studied and my capacity. Initially, when I got appointed, people were saying, "Oh, maybe it's because his dad is in APC or whatever, whatever." But the next day, when they saw my CV, they realized that I actually got appointed based on my own, capacity and abilities. So when you build yourself, even if you have a godfather and he helps, there's nothing wrong. What matters is, do you have capacity? And if you have capacity without godfather, in this sector now, in this rural education agency and other sister agencies that I know, there are so many young people working with us. For instance, in my office, most of my staff I didn't know. It's just from recommendation from, oh, this CV, send this CV, send this CV. Oh, this person must be good. Interview. Okay, I think I like you. Let's work together. And that's how it works in so many other places. Yes, you can't rule out the fact that we have one or two cases where Godfather will have a role to play. But if the Godfather is not proud of you, or if you don't have capacity, I don't think you would even be appointed. So people should believe in themselves and believe in this country. The problem is that people already have this belief that if you don't have a godfather, you cannot succeed. You have to remove that kind of orientation or belief from your mindset, and that's the only way the country you can benefit. If you just believe that there is that inherent Nigerianness, that opportunity that you can gain from everywhere across the country, just go about your business, go out every day, make yourself visible, speak to people, attend meetings, attend workshops, attend trainings, write letters to people. This is what I can do. This is how you never know who will pick interest in. And I have helped a few people just from just this kind of interactions, that people that I never knew. So it is just an orientation thing. It's either you want to go along that route, or you want to continue to believe in what you want to believe in. And well, if it works for you, fine. If it doesn't, but my own attitude is to believe that this is my country. I believe in the beauty of it. I believe that I don't need to know anybody. If I'm qualified, if I build myself, if I have the right character as well, because a lot of people confuse academic qualifications with for everything. You need to have native intelligence as well. Understand how to behave around certain kinds of people. and just have a very good, because your character will speak for you more than your academic qualification. So you have to develop certain skills and character that would allow you to, commingle, and people will be comfortable with you before you can get, offers.
All right. Well, it brings us to mentorship. I guess a lot of young people also need mentorship to be able to change that mindset of if I don't know somebody, I won't be able to make it. But
I
yes,
agree.
thank you so much, Dr. Sanusi Oheire, who is the Executive Director of Executive Director of Rural Electrification Fund, REA. Thank you for taking our time to
Thank
do
you.
this with us. And I hope
Thank
you're
you.
mentoring
It's a
a lot of
pleasure.
young people already. I mean, people listening
Yes,
to you doing
yes,
so
yes,
well.
quite a lot. I mean, the appointment came with this kind of expectations that, of course, a lot of people will reach out and ask to be mentored, and to the best of my ability, I do mentor quite a lot, and I'm glad I'm able to inspire and impact those young people that at least I currently have encountered.
Mm. All right. Thank you so much for taking our time to
Thank you.
do. And in his words, he said, in your own field, you can make an impact. Whatever field you found yourself in, you can make a difference. Thank you again. And to all of you who joined us today for Youth Assembly, well, thank you for your time and for contributing, asking questions, and making comments, and even giving him the kudos he needs it at this point. We hope that you have a fantastic day, Doctor. And
Thank you.
hopefully,
You too.
we become more visible. I'm visible right now.
Yeah, you are. I mean, you are doing well in your field, and that's what I'm talking about, right?
You see?
If anybody needs to call an OAP now, they would mention Sylvia that she's good and she's doing something to help the young people. So just
Done my
continue
own
the good work.
part. We'll continue. Thank you so much for this. Well, the show was put
You're
together
welcome.
by Hafsat Isa and Abdullahi Dauda. We'll be back tomorrow for another interesting edition of Youth Assembly. Stay with us and please share this video. Bye.